Today, we're diving deep, and I mean really deep, into a single verse from the Qur'an, Surah Maryam, verse 32, all to unpack the meaning of one incredibly powerful word, blessed. We're going to see how a tiny difference in divine language can open up a whole new level of theological understanding. Let's get right into it. So here's the question that kicks this whole thing off. The Quran calls a number of prophets Mubarak, which means blessed. But if you read carefully, you start to see a pattern. And then, suddenly, a really surprising break in that pattern. Now, this isn't some mistake. It's a puzzle, and solving it tells us something really profound about the scripture itself. All right, here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics, this question of blessing. Then we'll look at the legacy of the patriarchs to see the pattern. After that, we'll get to the heart of it, the puzzle of Ishmael. Then we'll decode the divine language, and finally, bring it all together for a deeper meaning. Okay, let's jump in. Section 1, a question of blessing. Before we can really crack this case, we've got to make sure we understand the tools and the terms we're working with. So our number one tool is Tafsir. Now, this is way more than just a simple translation. It's the whole scholarly field of Qur'anic interpretation. You can think of it like theological detective work. Every word, every phrase, and the exact context it's in, it's all a clue to understanding the real intended meaning. And the central clue in our investigation is this word right here, Mubarak. In the Qur'an, it means blessed. It's about being given a special kind of divine favor, goodness, and grace. The real question for us is, how is this blessing actually applied? And more importantly, why? And here's where we're getting our information from. This entire analysis comes from a deep, scholarly tafsir of Surah Maryam, the chapter of Mary. You know, the whole investigation really starts with the verse where Jesus, or ʿIsa, speaks from the cradle and describes himself as having been made blessed, Mubarak, by God. That one moment sets the stage for this whole examination of the word. Okay, so let's see how this starts to build. We're moving on to section 2, the patriarch's legacy, because this is where the Quran lays down a really clear pattern of blessing, all within one specific prophetic family. Specifically, the text often puts these three figures together, Prophet Abraham, his son Prophet Isaac, and then his grandson Prophet Jacob. And according to our source text, the Quran gives a kind of collective praise to this specific family line. The evidence in the text is what's so key here. Verses in Surah Maryam talk about their blessing like it's a shared inheritance. It's a gift of divine mercy and honor given to the entire line, establishing this continuous, unbroken chain of monotheistic guidance. And this, right here, brings us to the very heart of our investigation, the puzzle of Ishmael. Because just when you think you've figured out the pattern, the Quran gives us an exception, one that forces us to look much, much closer. So you have to ask, right, if Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are all described with this shared collective blessing, what about Abraham's other son, his firstborn, the prophet Ishmael? I mean, we're talking about a monumental figure. How does the Quran talk about him in this same chapter? And this slide just lays out the puzzle perfectly. On the left, you've got the patriarch's lineage, talked about together as recipients of mercy and blessing. But then look to the right. When the Quran mentions Prophet Ishmael in that same chapter, the language totally shifts. He's praised for a very specific, individual quality. He was true to his promise. So this is the crucial point that the tafsir scholar really zooms in on. While Ishmael gets this incredible praise, that specific word, Mubarak, or blessed, the one that's tied to the lineage of Isaac, it isn't used for him, not in this direct comparison anyway. And that can't be an accident. In a text that's considered divinely revealed, every single word matters. So the question is, why the different phrases? And that leads us right into the analysis part of our journey, decoding divine language. We're going to dig into the scholarly reasoning from the source text and figure out the real purpose behind this linguistic choice. This table breaks down the whole argument beautifully. For Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the focus is all about the continuity of that prophetic line and of monotheism, or Tawhid. According to the source, the purpose was to make an argument against polytheism, or shirk, by highlighting this one, single, unbroken chain of divine guidance. And that's why the language is collective. But for Ishmael, the focus shifts entirely. It becomes about a personal virtue, his absolute truthfulness to his promise. The purpose here is to shine a light on a key moral characteristic so the language becomes individual, praising one specific exemplary quality. So, now that we've analyzed the differences, we can finally move to our last section and see how this all clicks into place to solve this amazing theological puzzle. And here it is. This is the absolute key takeaway. The different ways they're described, it's not about creating a ranking system. It's not suggesting one prophet is less favored than another. No way. What this analysis really shows us is the incredible surgical precision and purpose of the Quran's language. Each description is perfectly chosen for the lesson that's being taught in that exact verse. Let's just walk through the resolution one more time. First, the Quran's language is exact. No word is there by accident. Second, context is everything. Grouping the patriarchs together is a very specific theological argument about the continuity of monotheism. Third, the focus on Ishmael's virtue highlights a different but just as critical prophetic quality, his integrity. And that leads to the final conclusion. Both descriptions are different kinds of high praise, each one perfectly tailored to make the specific theological point needed in that moment. To put it as plainly as I can, the fact that the word blessed isn't in Ishmael's description doesn't mean he's not blessed. Not at all. It simply means the verse is teaching us something different about him, something very specific about his character that's meant to be a timeless moral lesson for all of us. It's really a masterclass in divine communication. And that kind of leaves us with this final thought, doesn't it? This whole deep dive, this entire complex analysis, all of it came from noticing how a single word was used. It just makes you wonder, if one word can hold that much purpose, that many layers of meaning, what other incredible insights are just sitting there in the text, waiting to be discovered if we just take the time to look closely?